Hello everybody, welcome back to the Henry YouTube channel. Today we've got a terrible story to bring you. Terrible in the sense that it is very disturbing and viewer discretion should be advised. This is from the Jasper County, Indiana Sheriff's Office. It's a press release for September 12th, 2024. Now what we're gonna do is, we have a press release from the victim's family and we've got a press release from the sheriffs. We're gonna read it, we're gonna evaluate it, we're gonna talk about it. So we're going to start with the sheriffs. On September 8th, 2024, at approximately 8:35 p.m., the Jasper County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 medical call from a residence located about 4 miles southwest of DeMott, Indiana. Keener Township EMS arrived on scene and promptly requested assistance from the fire department and sheriff's deputies. On September 10th, 2024, the sheriff's office was informed that the patient had passed away. The Lake County Coroner's Office will complete their investigation and notify the family accordingly. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office has requested that the Indiana State Police investigate the incident. For any inquiries regarding the investigation, please contact the Indiana State Police. Now, so you read this and it kind of gives you the idea that look, something had occurred. I mean, it's very vague, right? You know, we received a call, we showed up, and on September 10th, you know, the sheriff's office was informed that the patient had passed away. Or it almost insinuates that they were having a deadly medical emergency that put them in the hospital, and now the guy's passed away from this deadly medical emergency. But of course, this is not the case at all. I am going to now all right, now we're gonna look at the press release from the victim's attorneys, all right? On September 8th, 2024, 26-year-old Rhyker Earl experienced a medical emergency around 8:30 p.m. This is a 26-year-old we're talking about. He underwent a severe seizure at home in DeMott, Indiana. His grandmother called 911 for emergency assistance. EMTs from Keener Township Emergency Medical Services and officers from the Jasper County Sheriff's Office responded. While they were on scene, Rhyker was in a prostictal state, trying to recover from his seizure. He was confused and agitated, typical symptoms for someone who had just suffered a severe seizure. As Rhyker was trying to put on shorts to go to the hospital for medical attention, he lost his balance and fell into an officer. Right. At that time, officers became aggressive, yelling, "You don't treat law enforcement that way." Officers took Rhyker to the ground and handcuffed him face down on the floor. Multiple officers then remained on top of Rhyker while EMTs administered 3 separate doses of sedatives, right? Some of the EMTs on scene had responded earlier in the day to a different location when Rhyker had another, less severe seizure. They knew he was undergoing a medical emergency, and they also knew he had asthma. Right? Officers stayed on top of Rhyker for more than 15 minutes with his face in a pillow. Right? So they're standing on top of the guy, and his face is in a pillow. We're going to keep reading. Rhyker went limp. His aunt noticed that Rhyker was blue in the face and pleaded with EMTs to do something. Right? She's noticed basically that her, his aunt, right? She's noticed that her nephew is lying with his face blue, which is indicative that somebody's dead, right? And she's asking the EMTs, "Will you please help my nephew? Please administer some first aid, try to get him resuscitated." And the EMTs sat. This is what I'm going to continue on, right? His aunt noticed that Rhyker was blue in the face and pleaded with the EMTs to do something after an agonizing few minutes. Right? So they sat for a few minutes. Right? They finally took Rhyker's pulse. Right? So they just murdered somebody. They held him face down in a pillow. Right? This is what you do when you murder somebody. You hold him face down in a pillow so they can't breathe. Right? The guy's got asthma. And they murder this 26-year-old. Okay? And then they sit there for minutes afterwards while his grandmother and his aunt are pleading with the EMTs, "Please help. Please help our grandson and our nephew, please." And they won't do anything for a few minutes. They finally take his pulse and they say, "Hey, sorry, he's dead." Rhyker was taken to the hospital, but it was too late. After tests confirmed Rhyker had no brain activity, life support measures were terminated on September 10th. National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, along with Indiana Attorney Stephen Wagner, have been retained by Rhyker's family to investigate the circumstances surrounding his death. At this early stage, there are still many unanswered questions. Why was Rhyker treated like a criminal and not a patient? Why did officers ignore the obvious risks of prone restraint? Why did they ignore his pleas that he could not breathe? The family's attorneys intend to fully investigate this matter and hold all those responsible for Rhyker's needless death accountable. During this difficult time, Rhyker's family would like to thank all those who have expressed their condolences on the tragic loss of a young father. So this 26-year-old young man was a father. And they've omitted the information of, how old his kids are, but he's 26, they can't be too old. And now we've got a young family without a dad, right? Because these superheroes, somebody tripped and fell into them. And so, they had to do something about it, right? They couldn't get disrespected like that, right? So especially those who attended the candlelight vigil for Rhyker last evening. Now, I'd like to offer my condolences to the family. I am absolutely shocked and disturbed that I've had to read this. Now, I'm 25 years old. In just another few months, I will be 26, and I have a young family, and you can only imagine what the police would like to do to me if I was so unfortunate to trip and fall into them, right? But this isn't about me. This is about a man who actually died. This is about a young man whose life is no more because of the Jasper County Sheriff's Office. I'm sitting here reading a few comments from the Jasper County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. This is on their press release. These are the comments on their press release. And I'm going to read a few comments. We're going to look. There's 700 comments on here. I would be surprised if in a few days some of these comments don't go missing. So we're going to look at a few of them. We've got Sheila Ambrose saying, "This is exactly why I'm terrified to call for help when my son is having a medical/psychological emergency. It's not just the cops, but the EMTs definitely contributed by the high probability of overdosing him. I do understand the heightened fear in the police profession these days, but this was a man having a legitimate medical emergency, not some self-induced drug reaction from a criminal with a known violent past. If you can't tell the difference, you don't deserve the honor of being a police officer." And that's a very interesting thing that I didn't touch on before. It does say in the lawyer's press release that Rhyker Earl was administered 3 separate doses of sedatives. Now, I think that you're supposed to give a person 1 dose. I think that they measure out a dose of sedatives because that's going to be strong enough to knock a normal human being out. I think if you've had to administer 3 after 1, you should say, okay, if it's not working, it's probably not going to work. But then after 2, you say, should we do this again? Is he going to overdose on this stuff? Is this going to shut his heart down? This is the kind of stuff that is very, this is why it's useful to get people's input on this. So Kendall Jean says, "That's a lot of words to say y'all murdered somebody." This is Tim Grigalands. He goes, "Internal affairs should be handling it, as you well know. Justice will be done." And it's funny that we've got 2 standards of justice, right? This Tim guy, I don't know who he is. He might be a cop, but he seems to think that internal affairs is the proper channel with which this should be handled through. But of course, internal affairs is actually just a alternative to the court system, right? It's a way that the government can say, hey, look, we are applying some standard of discipline. We're just doing it through this thing called internal affairs. But of course, there's already a way that we apply discipline to people who are acting in a criminal manner, right? There shouldn't be any special privileges or exceptions for somebody who's been given the status of a police officer. If you have broken the law, you should be held to the same standard that everybody else. And of course, the law is not something that is exclusive to the government. I don't want anybody any of my anarchist friends to misunderstand me. When I say the law, I mean John Locke's ideas, Thomas Jefferson's ideas. We're not talking about, the government says, you can't have marijuana, so now we're going to throw you in a cage if you have marijuana. That's unjust laws, right? But I'm saying if you've murdered somebody, if you have stolen from somebody, if you vandalized somebody's property, if you have caused damages to somebody, battered them, assaulted them, Yeah, there should be some way to hold you accountable. I just don't believe the government's the way to do it. But of course, if the government is the way to do it, we have to accept and understand that while they will be holding us to account for everything, they will be holding themselves to a lower standard, right? They can do whatever they want and no consequences will come from it. And you wonder what will actually be done about it. No murder charges have been pressed that I'm aware of at this point in time. Now, all we have with regards to this story, as far as information goes for this story, is what the two parties have told us. We've got the two press releases from the Jasper County Sheriff's Office. We've got the press release from the attorney. I am going to go out on a limb and say that the attorney's telling the truth and that the Sheriff's Department omitted all of the information that they possibly could because they know they murdered a young man and they know that the public's going to be mad about it, but they're going to try to sweep it under the rug like they always do, right? Sweep this under the rug. The deputies that murdered the guy most likely won't be held accountable, right? They might go get a job at another department. Perhaps they'll just go get a job in the private sector, right? Maybe they will have expended their welfare checks, right? And maybe their time will have expended. But everybody, when this body camera becomes available, I will be doing my darndest to try to get it. We'll see if we can't get it, and I'm certain that bigger channels will get it. But I wanted to break this news to you as soon as possible. This is fresh. The county council meetings, the county commissioners meetings are next month. Look forward to those because, guys, this is something we just can't let go. We have to continue being loud about it. We have to continue raising awareness about this. If we don't, we're just going to suffer more deaths like this. A young 26-year-old Rhyker Earl who's left his young children without a father and is hopefully in a much better place now. Jasper County Sheriff's Department Facebook will be in the description. Jasper County Sheriff's Department phone number will be in the description. Please don't break the law if you contact these agencies. Stay safe, stay free. I'm Craig Hendry with the Hendry Media Group. We'll see you in the next one.